and welcome to another episode of the Woldenburn podcast. My name is Emily, and I am coming to you from Kentucky, where I live with my wonderful husband and our beautiful baby boy, though he's less of a baby and more of a toddler now. It has been a while. It's been a long time since I have been able to film a video, so if you are a new viewer, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for your patience. It has been a very, very busy, I think it's been about 6 weeks, somewhere around there, since I last filmed a video, let alone, I think the last podcast episode was maybe even a little bit further back than that. But yeah, that is because if the eagle-eared among you noticed that my husband and I have moved. We are now in Kentucky instead of in Tennessee. And it has just been kind of a bit of a whirlwind. We closed on the house about mid-July, and then I was just working like crazy to try and get everything moved over and whatnot. And it was challenging with the baby and just trying to do everything with him, and he would freak out if I would leave him in the house while I'm trying to grab stuff from the car. He would just get really scared and start crying. It was so pitiful. So it was a very, very stressful few weeks. And then my husband's family helped us move all of like the big stuff over one weekend. And then since then we've kind of been going back and forth between our apartment townhouse where we used to live and here, which is they're about 30 minutes apart. So it's not a short drive. And picking up the last little bits of odds and ends that invariably show up when you're moving. So it has just been busy. And then even this week, like let alone, this week has been a long week. I managed to hurt my hip on Tuesday. I was doing some stretches and stuff, and I'm like trying to hold baby Tam, and he's like wanting to be with me because anytime you sit down or lay down, he's immediately like, oh my goodness, I want to be with you. And so I'm trying to do these stretches and things, and I managed to pull a tendon or something. I'm not exactly sure what I did, but I ended up sleeping terribly that night because I was in so much pain. And then the whole next day, thank goodness that Micah has the job that he does, because basically at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, which is when I usually get him up so that he can get ready for work. Well, it's usually 6:15 is when I do it, but anyway, it was a little bit early. I was just like, honey, can you stay home today? Because I don't think I can make this on my own. Like, I can make it. I can do it if I have to, but please, can you stay home today? So he was able to call out. He has plenty of vacation and sick days saved up, so he was able to call out sick and stay home, and he was just amazing and so helpful. He watched the baby for most of the day, and I was able to just lay down and rest. And when we moved into the house, the microwave in the kitchen was broken, and we just haven't gotten around to replacing it yet. And so we couldn't use, we have one of those, they're filled with rice, the heat pack things that you can pop in the microwave and heat it up for a few minutes and then use that. So we weren't able to do that, and heat was really the only thing that helped. So I would be in the shower, sitting down in the bathtub, just using the shower head, because our showers are so cool. They have the removable shower head thing. So I'm just spraying hot water on my hip and just staying in there for 10-15 minutes, and then that would kind of help. And then I could lay down for a few hours and then repeat. So that happened, and it was not fun. But thankfully, with Micah being able to be home, I was able to rest. And so by that evening, I was pretty much back to usual. But then, of course, baby Tam gets he had been a little bit snuffly that day, but then he kind of got a cold, and it's his first proper kind of congestion sort of a cold, and so he slept so poorly for the next 2 nights. And it was just exhausting. It has been a long, long week, or it's felt, I mean, obviously it's still the same 7 days, but it has felt long. So it's just been a busy, busy time getting everything situated. Things are still very much in the middle of sort of the moving disruption, if you will. There's still things that we haven't figured out where they should go and how we should store things, and it's just that sort of, you know how when you get a new pair of shoes and you have to like wear them to break them in? We're working on breaking in our house. Figuring out how to store everything and where it should go and whatnot, but we love it. It is absolutely perfect for what we need, and it has just been amazing. So lovely. I have loved being in our own home. Like, this is our place, and it has just been lovely. So yeah. But anyway, one thing I forgot to mention kind of at the very beginning, 5 minutes ago, is for the sake of trying to get this video edited and uploaded and whatnot as quickly as possible, I'm gonna try and keep things pretty minimal as far as editing. That I don't think I'm gonna try and put in all of the pattern names and things. I'll just have that all in the description box down below where you can read it for show notes and stuff. I might try and do pictures, but I'm actually thinking what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to use my phone, and I'll show you the pictures on Ravelry, and then I'll just have the link down below so you can look at it. Because I've been trying to think about ways that I could make the podcast a little more streamlined so that it would be easier for me to film more regularly. And I've been watching a lot of the Knitty McPurly podcast and a lot of the Fruitful Hands podcast. Amazing podcasts. And just kind of observing the way that they do those things. And the Knitty McPurly podcast is really cool because she doesn't do the standard podcasting format. She actually has very minimal knitting, if you will, and so it means that she can do it every week because it's not dependent on her creating tons of knitted objects, and I love that. And so I want to kind of try over the next bit to maybe incorporate some of that, talking about different like knitting patterns or yarn dyers or books or different things to kind of fill out a full podcast so that maybe I could film it every week or every couple of weeks. I haven't quite decided on that yet. We'll see how it goes, but to start incorporating some of those things. And then the Fruitful Hands podcast, they that's what they do for showing pictures or whatever. They don't bother with putting the pattern names on the screen or anything. They just have like an iPad or something, and that's how they show the pattern pictures. And I really like that. I think that that would be very useful for me in the current season of life that I am in. As a mama to a little boy who's very active and busy, I just don't have a lot of time. So that's what I'm thinking about doing. And then changing up the layout just a little bit. One of the things I kind of want to start doing is I want to do more of the life update chit chat at the beginning of the podcast because it just feels more natural. I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was like, if I was having you over to my house to have tea and to do some knitting, the first thing that we're going to do is going to be like, oh my goodness, how are you? How have things been going? Like, how is your family? Like, that's what you do. And you don't immediately just go, here's my knitting. And so I was thinking about it, and I was just like, yeah, I would like to do that. So from here on out, I'm going to try and do the little like chattery life update at the beginning, and if it's not really your cup of tea, you can just skip forward a little bit. I'm not going to stress about doing timestamps or anything either, so just forward until you see me doing knitting, and then you can back up a little bit if you need to. But anyway, so those are just some kind of like little podcasty updates. And then actually that leads us right into the knitting. I have 3 finished objects to share with you. So first off, still being held in this beautiful bag that Susan of the Delightful Works, she, in my last podcast episode, I think I shared all of the beautiful, beautiful things that she gifted me, and I said that I wasn't sure if she had made this one. She did make this. She told me later. And it is such a perfect sock project bag, which is what I have in here. I finished these such a long time ago, is what it feels like now. But these are my red wall, they're very crumpled. My red wall flowers socks that I knit using some of the yarn from my Red Wall Flowers mini skein set that I released back at the beginning of May. It's kind of weird because then I realized that that's been months ago now. Yeah, so I just used it at the top as stripy, and then this brown, grayish brown is another one of my hand-dyed yarn that I just had in my stash. And I have a finished pair. This I used, just if you're curious, the cast on that I always use for my socks is the Tilly Buddies like super stretchy cast on or something. I found it in a book. The book I think is called like Cast On Bind Off or something, and it's a whole book just about casting on and binding off, and it has been the most successful one that I've used so far. I don't know how people do a long tail cast on and it's stretchy enough. I don't understand, because mine is never stretchy enough. Or even the German twisted cast on that people talk about. So I have just, honestly, it's been a few years now, that's the cast on that I use. This time it did turn out a little bit tighter than usual because I used a different needle size than I typically do. So I used a US size 0, or I believe it's a 2mm needle for these, and I did 60 stitches. Whereas my usual sock knitting recipe, if you will, is I do 56 stitches on US size 1 or 2.25mm needles. And I just, over the summer, kind of wanted to experiment with trying out a different needle size and a different stitch count. So that's what I did. And then the heel that I used on here is, again, different from my standard heel flap and gusset I have partridge heel that I do. I did the shadow wrap heel, which is a short row heel, and it was so quick and easy and actually fits quite well. So I can definitely see myself using it again. Yeah, so they're done. I have a new pair of socks to wear whenever the weather decides to cool down. It has been swelteringly hot the last week, but thankfully we've gotten a massive thunderstorm today. It's currently raining outside, but this morning it was just pouring. We've had like flash flood warnings in the area and whatnot, and so this next week it's supposed to be highs in like the low 80s, which is just going to be amazing. I'm so excited. But eventually, you know, maybe September, October sometime, I'll be able to wear my hand knit socks again, because I have definitely not been wearing them during the summer because it is too hot. So that's the first finished object. And then the next finished object, okay, a little bit of backstory here. I am a nincompoop of the highest variety. I, like the goose that I am, signed up for 3 test knits right around the same time. To be fair, like with test knits, you never completely know if you're going to get in it for 100% sure. I was pretty sure I was going to get into at least 2 of them, and then I got in the 3rd one too, and I was just like, well, okay, this is happening. And of course I did it all right around the same time when we were moving, because I just didn't think about it. And the problem is that these are some of my favorite designers, and I just can't help it. I want to knit their patterns. And to be completely transparent, a big reason why I love doing test knits is because then I don't have to buy the pattern later. It's because I get the free pattern, and it is a frugal and economic way of being able to knit patterns that you love without having to pay for them. And yes, there's much more to test knitting than that. You know, you need to like keep track of how much yarn you're using, do swatches, and get back and forth with the designer. And because the goal of the test knit is to, designers have different opinions on it, but it's usually to make sure that the pattern doesn't have any significant errors in it, that it's easy to understand, and that the pattern's fun to knit. Like, that's usually the biggest criteria. So yeah, I was a complete goober, and I've been so good about resisting test knits and been like, okay, I don't really have the time for this right now, it's a bit too complicated, it's too short of a deadline, like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I made up for it by signing up for 3 at the same time. So needless to say, I have been knitting feverishly the last month, and honestly it's been a little bit stressful. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very close to being done with the last 2. Technically I have two of the test knits done. I still have to weave in the ends and block the other one, but I'll show you that in a second. yeah, so it's been a little bit hectic because I've basically devoted every single nap time to knitting as much as I can, and it's made the knitting not as much fun, so I don't recommend it. If you can, one test knit at a time and not when you're moving. That being said, I'm going to have some beautiful finished objects, so it's kind of worth it in the end. The first one is this adorable little sweater. This is the little Seaberry sweater by Emily of the Blue Mouse Knits, and I love Emily so much. She is somebody that I have followed since her first pattern release, actually, or her first garment pattern release, and I have test knit so many patterns for her. I just love her designs. She's one of those people that I really wish that I could meet. She's very similar in age to me. We have the same name. And I love her as a designer, and she just seems like such a lovely person. And she had a podcast for a while, and then she took a break because there was kind of ridiculous things that happened in the knitting community a few years ago, and so she kind of took a break from it, but she's been making a few more videos recently, and I'm really hoping that at some point she'll be able to do a podcast again. But she's still designing and releasing patterns. On her YouTube channel, she actually has a lot of patterns that she's released for free. Like you can watch the video on how to make them, or you can buy like the proper pattern for like $1 or $2. They're very inexpensive. So I do recommend you check her channel out. She has tons of tutorials for different like knitting stitches and bind offs and just different knitting techniques. So she's just a really wonderful person. I like her a lot. And so she put up a testing haul for the little Seaberry sweater, which is just a very basic, classic raglan kids sweater. And I will say she has done it, and in a way I applaud her choice. There has been a lot of talk in the knitting community recently about making sure that you're size inclusive, like that you include sizes for absolutely everybody. And before she kind of took a break from designing, her patterns had a ton of sizes in them. However, since she's restarted sizing, she talked about it in one of her videos that she had decided to reduce the number of sizes that she did, because the fact of the matter is that her market is usually within like this set number of sizes, and it's a lot of work to do all of the grading, which she does herself, for all of the bazillion different sizes. And so this only comes in 4 sizes. I can't remember the exact range off the top of my head, sorry. I believe this is the 3rd size, and it was like a 2T size or something. It's supposed to be like a little kid's sweater, so it's not gonna have, I think maybe there was like a baby size, and then, I don't remember. The pattern's gonna be available shortly, so you'll be able to see it. But I knit this out of some of my hand-dyed yarn and then a couple yarns from my stash. So the brown here, that's my hand-dyed yarn. This blue teal color is the Barocco Vintage Baby DK, and I believe it's the Mallard colorway. And then this gold yellow color is actually some yarn from Explorer Knits and Fibers, I believe is what it is. And I've had this yarn in my stash for a long time. It's been a few years. Back before Explorer Knits and Fibers got quite so big, she had put out a call on Instagram for sample knitters, and I was able to do a sample knit for her. And so this was just some scraps left over from that sample knit. And it's a beautiful, beautiful color. I love that. It's just such a wonderful gold color. So I was so happy to be able to use it because it's just been sitting around for such a long time. Now it's knit together into an adorable little sweater for my little boy, and I absolutely love it. I have this little piece of scrap yarn in the back to help me remember which is the back. Particularly before blocking, it wasn't as obvious, and I think I'm going to get like a little piece of like ribbon or something and just stitch it in the back. And that's something that I actually want to try and do more with my knitting, because I feel like a lot of times it's not immediately obvious which is the front and back. So I think that that'll make it really helpful, especially with a wiggly little boy who's just like, I want to go play. Why are you trying to put clothes on me? It'll be much faster if I can go, oh, there's the back. Boop, put it on the kid. So I love it. I think I knit the arms just a little bit longer than what the pattern called for, and I can't remember if I knit the body a little bit longer or not. I think I did. I think I knit things just a little bit longer because I'm tall. I'm about 5'9". My husband is tall. Our families are tall. Our little boy is tall. He's tall and skinny. And so I just knew that if I didn't make it long enough, he was just going to grow out of it really quickly. And I don't mind the sleeves being a little bit long because you can just boop, and you're all good. So I really love this. I'm very excited for when it'll be cool enough that I can put him in his little sweater and he's just going to be adorable. I knit him 2 sweaters when he was much littler, and he definitely wore those. I would put them on over top of like the sleepers, whatever, the footed PJ things. I would just pop a sweater over top of that and it kept him so snug and warm. So I'm very happy with that. So that's 2 finished objects. Real quick, I'm gonna take a little, okay, a little drink. I went to Trader Joe's a couple days ago, which is a very long drive now. It's over an hour away. So we're not going to be doing that very often, but I grabbed some of their sparkling water, which I have not had before. It does not taste like grapefruit. It honestly tastes pretty plain, but it's okay. I see people talking about drinking sparkling water all the time, and I'm like, maybe I should do that more. Anyway, it's not bad. It's just, the thing with Trader Joe's is they're not going to put fake sweeteners in it to make it super sweet and delicious like soda, and I don't want to drink soda. The last finished object and test, not the last test knit, because I'm still working on one, is not technically 100% completed. I still have ends to weave in. So I would say it's about 90% completed because I have to weave in the rest of the ends and block it. But it is the Digory Tee by Devin of Knitty McPurly, and I love this so much. It looks a bit weird because all of the ribbing just wants to keep flipping in because it has not been blocked, and it just wants to keep popping up and folding up and bunching up. But I knit a fingering weight t-shirt in a month, and that's a little insane to me. That tells you how crazy, frantically busy I have been trying to get this done. Although to be fair, Devin has actually extended the test knit deadline by a week, so I have plenty of time. I was just so worried that I was not going to get it done in time, because it's fingering weight knit on size 3 needles, and it takes a while. So this is knit out of my hand-dyed yarns. I used 2 different colorways, and I love it so much. I think it's going to be absolutely perfect. I'm never going to be able to wear it in the hot, humid Kentucky summers, but I'll be able to wear it in like the spring when it's still a little bit chilly, or in the fall time. It's definitely more spring colored, but whoops, just bumped the camera. Anyway, this is all knit on a 75-25 superwash merino nylon blend. And again, these are yarns that I hand dyed such a long time ago, and I've had in my stash for such a long time. So I am just so happy to get these out, and I just love how it's turned out. I knit the body just a little bit shorter. I think it called for like 12 3/4 inches of the body before you split for the sleeves, and I think I ended up doing like it was either like 11 3/4 or like 12 inches. I did just a little bit shorter because I have kind of a shorter waist and I wanted to be able to wear it like over dresses or with like skirts and things. And also I know that because superwash, it's probably going to stretch. And actually when I block it, I'm intentionally going to pull it down a little bit because it's very like wide and boxy looking. And so I'm just going to pull it down a little bit and hopefully it'll just pull the size in just a little bit. But I knit the 3rd size. Technically the appropriate size would have been the 4th size, but I intentionally did it 1 size down with a bit less ease because I wanted to make sure that it was something that would fit me like both while I'm in a nursing breastfeeding phase and when I'm not. I didn't want it to be something that I was completely swimming in when I'm not fully busted because of nursing. And it fits beautifully. I'm not going to try it on because it just kind of looks a little bit weird with it flipping up and stuff. But hopefully next time I podcast, I can just wear it. And then I can be one of the real podcasters who wears their knitwear while they're podcasting. And I'm excited for it. One of the things that I did differently is I picked up quite a few fewer stitches for the neckline than what was called for in the pattern. I think it was just because my yarn was stretching so much. The neckline was so wide and open when I got done with it. And so I picked up fewer stitches and then I decreased, I think I decreased like even further to make it smaller. And then the one mistake that I did is usually when I'm binding off, I use the Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off. It's what I used on this pattern. And that's just kind of what it looks like. And it's a beautifully, beautifully stretchy bind off. And I love it. It's so perfect. But with this one, I was a little bit worried that it would stretch too much. So I did like a standard bind off with the yarn over periodically throughout it. I should have just done the straight Jenny stretchy bind off because I don't know if you can kind of tell, like it's tight. I can get it over my head still, but it's a little bit snug. So my plan is I'm going to block it and everything, and then if I don't like it or if it's too annoying, I'll rip the bind off and bind off out and redo it. But I love how it sits, like when it's on. It sits about like there. Like if I put it on over my dress, which I did the other day, you could see like just the edges of my dress. And so it fits really nicely. It's really beautiful. And this is another one of those ones that I was talking about that I need to put a little bit of ribbon or something in the back because it's just, it doesn't have short rows in the pattern. It's knit, I should have said this before, it's knit bottom up. And then you knit in the round until you separate for the sleeves, and then you knit back and forth until you then have to cast off for the front neckline, and then you do one side and then the other side of the front, and then you do the same thing for the back. And I've only knit, I think, one other bottom-up sweater, so it's definitely a new to me technique, but this has turned out pretty great. So I can definitely see myself making more Digory tees. But yeah, like I was saying, right now the only way that I know which is the back and which is the front is because I know that I ended with this color on the front and that color on the back. So that's the only way that I'm like easily able to be like, oh, okay, that's the way that it goes. But I really love it. I can't wait to get it blocked. I just have a few more ends to weave in. I have to finish weaving in the ends around the one sleeve, and then there's just a couple more around the neck, and then the ones at the bottom ribbing. And these ones are going to be a little bit more difficult because this ribbing just wants to flip. Once it blocks, it should be fine, but right now, like, this is what it wants to do. So anyway, I love it. Hopefully I'll be able to wear it next time and show it to you properly. So, as I said, frantic knitting. I'm glad to be almost done with that and just be able to embrace the slower, more gentle pace of knitting that I much prefer. Don't sign up for 3 test knits at the same time. It's a bad idea. fair, it wouldn't have been so bad if I was not moving at the same time. But that leads us on to the third test knit and my only active work in progress. I do have some other works in progress, which actually would be kind of fun to maybe do a show and tell next time of all of the works in progress that I have. I have more than I thought I did. But this is the Passport Pullover that I am test knitting for Hannah of Hannah G Knits, and it is another kids pullover. That's right, Hannah Designs, and this is my fourth test knit for her. Also, apologies if it's getting a little bit dark. It looks like it's about to bucket down again. I'm sitting like right in front of the window, and here in our living room we have 3 windows right next to each other, so hopefully it stays light enough. But this is a very simple kids sweater, but the thing that makes it interesting is it's a saddle shoulder design rather than like a raglan, and I haven't done one of these before. So this has been an interesting adventure technique to try out. And I am using some yarn from my stash. The actual pattern has it where you can stripe it, and I chose not to do that because I have, the whole point with the pattern was to make it scrap friendly, to be able to use up scrap yarns from your stash that have just been sitting around and you want to use them up. So I had this yarn. I took the tags out because they were annoying me, but this is the Sirdar Jewel Spun, I believe. I can't remember the colorway of it. And it's just a really big, I think it's a Aran weight yarn. And this pattern calls for heavy worsted or Aran weight. And I bought this when my husband and I were in Wisconsin a month after the baby was born, which is wild to think back now. Like, what were we doing? One of his good friends was getting married. He was one of the groomsmen in the wedding, so we were gonna go, even though the baby was a month old. And it was a long drive, because we were driving all the way from Tennessee to Wisconsin, and it was just, whew. However, one of the most fun things was that we stopped by a yarn store while we were there, and it has become one of my favorite yarn stores. I've purchased some stuff from them even after moving, and I get their newsletter. I fell in love with it, and I really wish that it was my local yarn store. It's called the Flaxen Fleece, I believe. Yeah, I always get it mixed up in my head somehow. But it's the Flaxen Fleece, and I bought some yarn to make my husband a pair of socks. I bought me some knitting needles, and I bought this yarn to make baby Tam a sweater. And here we are a year later, and I'm finally making him a sweater. Actually, it hasn't quite been a year yet, because he just turned 1, and so I will have this done before a year has gone by. But yeah, it's a really fun yarn to knit with because all of the color changes are just in the yarn. And so it changes up. And it's just so interesting. And this was a big reason why I signed up for the test knit, because I already had this yarn in my stash, and I was like, actually that's perfect. And it will give me the kick in the pants to use that yarn and get it knit up into a sweater. So yeah, it's been really fun to knit. I think I'm knitting the 4th size. One of the things that I absolutely love about Hannah's patterns is that when she releases a kid's pattern, it usually has from like newborn all the way up to, it's either like size 10 or 12, and I think that's just amazing. It's so nice. I've talked about it before in previous videos, I think more than once, that one of my pet peeves with like petite knit patterns is she'll have the baby pattern, which has like 5 sizes, and then she has the kids pattern, which has like 5 sizes, and then there's a junior pattern, and then there's an adult pattern, and you have to pay like $8 for each one of those patterns. And like, I get it, designing knitting patterns is not easy, but that just seems a little excessive to me. I'm like, come on, you could have done it in like, even if you did like kid/baby and then like teenager and then adult, even that I would have been fine with. But the fact that there's like 4 different ones, So I really love and appreciate Hannah, and if you have little kids that you need to, or you want to knit things for, or gift knit things for, check out her patterns, because one, she makes really classic, lovely, lovely designs. I love her knitting pattern designs, but she also has very generous sizing in it. But yeah, so I'm almost done. I need to bind off the ribbing. I put this to the side because I have a little bit longer to finish this than I did for the Digory Tee, and I was just really, really worried that I was not going to get the Digory Tee done in time. So I set this down for a minute so I could finish that one off, and now this should just fly. Also because I finished the Seaberry, the little Seaberry sweater, because I cast all of them on because I wanted to get them all on the needles, and then I've just been kind of knitting on kind of whichever one I was feeling. The Seaberry was the one that was due first, so I tried to get that one like done pretty quickly, and then the Digory Tee was next, and then Passport. It's kind of switched because Devon's extended it, so I think technically now the Digory Tee is due after the Passport pullover, but I'm pretty much done with that one anyway. So I'm going to get the last few ends woven in and then probably try and block it today, actually. I was going to try and get it done in blocking, and I was like, wait, I'm going to try and film a podcast. Let's wait to block it until after that, so I don't have like a soggy, sopping sweater to show you. So this one should be done pretty quickly. One thing that I found with knitting this one was I used double pointed needles for the sleeves, and it went so quickly. I was originally trying to do magic loop, and I was just like, oh, this is just, I'm not getting in a rhythm. So I switched to double pointed needles, and it just went done. It was so nice. So that's what I'm planning to do with this one. I feel like this circumference for kids' sleeves is small enough that it's almost like knitting a sock, because if it's too big, like for my sweaters, it's just clunky to try and knit the sleeves with double pointed needles. I just don't like it. So for my sweater sleeves, I've done it where I've done magic loop or 2 circular needles, and that usually ends up working out the best for me, is 2 circular needles. But for kids ones, apparently double pointed needles are the way to go. So I can't wait. This is just going to be so snug and warm, and it is a 100% acrylic yarn. So my thinking with this one is that it's going to be a great like play sweater. It's not going to be something where if it was like a really, really expensive wool. I think the ball that I got was like 15 bucks. So it was not a pricey yarn at all, because it comes with 500 and something yards of yarn. So more than enough. I'm going to have leftovers after I finish this sweater. But yeah, that is the only active work in progress that I have. Now, I know this has been a long video already, but I still have more to talk about. So it's going to be a doozy. This is part of why I wanted to kind of streamline the editing. So I have 2 more sections. I have some acquisitions to talk about, and I have some knitting plans that I want to talk about, because that's one of the things that I really love about the Fruitful Hands podcast with Diana and Katie. They talk about their knitting plans, and even if they don't end up doing them, it's so fun to hear about it. So that's what I'm going to do. More water. Stay hydrated. It's important, especially if you're nursing. Okay, so I have this handy dandy tub full of things to share with you. Now, first off, I have some very lovely, talented knitting friends, and these lovely, talented knitting friends are also incredibly generous knitting friends. They are just so kind and wonderful, and I just feel so spoiled and appreciative, and yeah. It's kind of, it makes me a little sentimental, and if I start thinking about it too much, it might make me a little bit teary-eyed. Just thinking about how I finally, like, this sounds so depressing. I finally have friends, and these are friends that likes a lot of the things that I like, and they're either in similar stages of life that I am or the same stages of life, and it is just, it is so amazing that is, like, Knitting and Knitting Podcasts is how we've connected, and I've connected with all of these people within the last year. And it's just, it blows my mind sometimes when I think about it, because I can just remember being that very lonely, out of place sort of a teenager with no friends, just homeschooled, kind of nerdy, old-fashioned homeschooler. And I just liked all the things that nobody else around me liked. All the old-fashioned, like, vintage movies and vintage clothes and all the crafty things. Like, that was where my passion and heart was, and books and, like, all of that. And it seemed like nobody my age liked any of those things. So it has been magical and God-given blessing to connect with some of these other people. Anyway, so I have some lovely acquisitions to share with you that some people have very generously gifted to me. The first one I'm going to show you is actually, I won a giveaway from the Fruitful Hands Knitting podcast, and it was so funny because I was watching it, and Diana and Katie do it where they do like a premiere, so they'll be live chatting with people while the video is going, and I joined a little bit later because I have a baby, so I'm rarely able to immediately, when it goes live, start watching it. And I see over in the live chat something about like Woldenburn, and I was like, what's going on over here? And there was somebody saying like, congratulations Woldenburn, and I was like, did I win? But I made myself watch all the way through. I didn't forward and sneak peek, and yes, I had won the giveaway, or one of the giveaways. They were doing like 3 of them for, I think it was for hitting like 2,000 subscribers or something, I can't remember. So they gifted me this project bag, which is made by Cherished Stitch, by Ole, I'm not completely sure. She might have an Etsy store. If she does, I'll try and link it down below. But she had gifted this to the ladies at the Fruitful Hands to gift as a giveaway. So they sent me this, and then Diana had gotten from her stash some yarn to do as like a sock set to send to me. So this one is a Madeline Tosh in the Moonstone colorway, and it's a fingering weight 395 yards. It's 100% merino wool, so I'm not sure that I would actually use this for socks. Because I've been watching Amber of A Lovely Yarn, and she's talked about it where her socks wear out if they don't have nylon in them. So what I was thinking about doing instead with this, because it's just such a lovely, like, sort of pearly lavender gray color, I was thinking about making like a little shawlette or something, either like the Pebble shawl, which Amber from A Lovely Yarn has been talking about. I'm not sure who the designer is, or something along those lines, just a little something to wrap around your neck. I was like, ooh, that would be really nice and cozy. And then either use it for myself or gift it. I'm not sure. And then she included a mini skein, which is, this one is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. It's Emma's yarn on the Crazy Beautiful Socks, or Crazy Beautiful Color mini skein, and it's Be Happy. And it's just the most happy green color. It's so fun. So that was the first parcel, and they used some of the most beautiful tissue paper that I have ever seen. I have saved it because I just love it. I've never seen a tissue paper like this, and it's just beautiful. So there's that one. And then Holly from Mystery Mouse Yarn Co. is just so generous. And she creates some of the most beautiful yarn. She sent me 4 skeins of her Jessica Fletcher colorway. Now it is showing up very much on the screen as like a raspberry red. It's not. It's much more of like a purpley color than what is showing up there. It's more, yeah, on the purple side of things. I love the color that's showing up on the screen, but I also love this color, so it all works out. So she sent me 4 skeins of this, and this is on her DK base, which is a 100% superwash merino wool. And I am planning to knit the Catkin, is it Lady Catkin pullover? Let me pull up the picture here. I saved it on my phone so I could show it to you. This is kind of part of my knitting plans, so we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. But it's this pullover. Sorry, it's gonna reflect. There we go. So it's the Lady Catkin pullover by Fox and Folk, and it's just this really sweet pullover. It's a little bit cropped, but it has this there we go, like lace detailing, which I love, and I think will be absolutely perfect for, this isn't quite red, but it's kind of like a Christmassy color, definitely like autumnal. And she gave me 4 skeins, which I'm pretty sure should be enough. I might just have to make the sleeves a little bit shorter, but that's totally fine. So I was just like, when I opened the package and saw what was in there. And I can't remember if I mentioned this. This is in the Jessica Fletcher colorway, which was from the collection that was inspired by the Murder, She Wrote show starring Angela Lansbury, which I watched so much of after Holly recommended it on her podcast. I didn't watch quite all of it. I think I stopped around season 6 or 7 or something. Can't remember if it was like right around I was about to go on vacation or something. I don't remember. I haven't finished it. I should, because I love it. It's such a good show. Anyway. And then another one of my beautiful, wonderful knitting friends, Emily from, another Emily, I'm telling you, there's so many Emilys in the knitting community. She has, she kind of messaged me on Instagram. We started talking back and forth and whatnot. And she's a mom with a little boy that's, I think maybe a month or 2 younger than mine. So it's again one of those like similar situations, similar seasons in life. And she just started a hand-dyed yarn company called Night Bright Yarn Co. And she is an incredibly generous person. And she did her pre-order for her yarn in July, I think, and I had shared something about it, and I was talking about how much I loved particularly this colorway. And she was just like, well, I'm going to send you a little housewarming gift. So she sent me 2 skeins of each. These ones were already wound up, which is really cool because now I can show you what they look like in the skeins and the cakes. So this is on her Bright Sock base, which is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, fingering weight. This is the color Sea Gloss. And it's blowing out a little bit just because the light, but that's not a terribly inaccurate color. It's a little bit wider, brighter than what it is in real life. So that one is gorgeous. I love that one. And then this beauty is called Coral Reef. And it's so interesting because it's so much like pinkier looking in the cake than it is in the skein, hank, whatever you call it. And I love it so much. I'm trying to think what I can do. I was like, I could technically knit another Digory Tee out of this because I just need 2 skeins of yarn. So I could do a Digory Tee, or I was like, I could do a shawl. I need to do something beautiful that I can wear because I love this colorway so much. And the other option is I could hold it double with something else, but I'm kind of torn. I don't want to like, it's beautiful. I got the package yesterday and it was just the most perfect thing after this kind of hectic and less than ideal week. It was such a fun yarny parcel to get. So I can't wait to decide what I'm going to knit with it because I really feel like I want to cast it on right now. So thank you very much, Emily. I absolutely love it. I will have her shop and Instagram link down below. Go check it out. She's hinted at her autumnal pre-order that's coming up and I'm like, oh no. Oh dear. More beautiful yarn. And then the last acquisition that I have is not really, it's not hand-dyed yarn. It's for another Future Knits plan that I have. It's some baby yarn. So both there's a couple that we know locally. There's some good friends of ours. My husband grew up with the husband of the couple. And they have 2 children already. And she is pregnant with their 3rd and due in like a month or 2. And so I was like, okay, I want to knit them a little baby cardigan because I think that would be really nice. They're going to have a little girl, so we're just going to do like a nice, simple, sagey color. This is the Baby Bee Sweet Delight in the green light color. And this is a 60% acrylic, 40% polyamide yarn, and it's just from Hobby Lobby. It's like a DK weight. And then I also got this one for my sister who is due in December with her third baby. And it is in the Teddy colorway, and she's having a little boy, but she really likes kind of neutral tan sorts of colors. So I got these two to knit the Newborn Vertebrae cardigan by Kelly. I'm not going to try and pronounce her name. I'll have it in the description below. But it's just this really sweet, this version, the newborn size is free. And then there's more sizes for children and I think adult ladies that you can purchase. And I've knit one of these before for my husband's cousin. They had a baby back in like March. And I love the design. I'm determined I'm going to knit some more for myself as well for future babies. But I wanted to knit the 2 gift knits first. So you can kind of see, whoop, that way, over my face. It's just a very simple little cardigan. It covers the back, but then in the front it has a very, very narrow, here we go, this is a good one. It has a very narrow, oh my goodness, front piece, so that basically the goal with it is that it keeps the baby's arms and their back all nice and snugly warm, but it leaves the front very open so that if they spit up or if you're doing a lot of like skin to skin time, the front is just open. You can kind of tuck them on your chest and hold them there. And I found it when I was looking for patterns to gift knit for Micah's cousin, and I was just like, this is such a clever design, particularly for little babies. It's only a 1 size. It calls for a fingering weight yarn. This yarn is technically, it's a size 3, so it's like a DK weight yarn, but I did that intentionally because I wanted it to be a little bit bigger because my sister has big babies. At least her last baby was a very big baby. And I was thinking too that if I made it in a slightly thicker yarn, that it would be something that they could probably still wear as a newborn, but then it would last a little bit longer. And it was a little bit more flexible in sizes because again, you can just roll up the sleeves. So that's why I was like, I'm going to try that out. We're going to see how it goes. And yeah, I'm actually really excited about it because I have been so inspired by Amy from Noble Character Crafts and Stephanie of Texas Peach Knits. They do so much gift knitting and they do a lot of like baby gift knits, and I was thinking, you know, I think I would like to try and do that and kind of start having a little stash of baby gift knits, because I'm very much in the phase of life now where either I'm going to be having kids or the people around me are more and more starting to have children. And so I would like to have a little stash of like knitted baby items, blankets, cardigans, hats, those sorts of things that I can have ready to go. And the other thing too is that I would really like to donate where we've moved now. There's a pregnancy resource center about, it's like 5-10 minutes away from where we live. It's very, very close. That's actually one of the weird things is where we live now is so close to all of the things, the grocery stores, Hobby Lobby. It's like 5-10 minutes from everything that we would go to. So it's super convenient. Goodwill, thrift stores, all of it. And so there's a pregnancy resource center about 5-10 minutes away. And I was like, you know what? I would love to make some hand-knitted items that I can donate to the Pregnancy Resource Center. So those kind of 2 things, that's something that I want to kind of start working towards in the next few months, or going forward, honestly. It's not for just a short period of time, it's going forward. But that actually, mentioning Stephanie of Texas Peach Knits, this ends all of the knitting stuff, but I have a fun other announcement. So Stephanie of Texas Peach Knits, Holly of Mystery Mouse Yarn Co., and I, it's mostly them two, we are doing a book club. It's the, hopefully I get it right, the Fancy Reading Needlecraft Club. And the goal with this is to read classic, wholesome, wonderful books. And Stephanie has been absolutely amazing. She has kind of spearheaded the whole thing and organized everything and gotten it all together. And it just so happened that it was right when I was moving and whatnot. And I told her, I was just like, I would love to help, like, kind of lead and participate with this, but I just don't think it's going to happen in my season of life right now. So I'm going to have to take a little bit of a back seat. But I want to participate, and maybe going forward, at some point I'll be at a spot where I can kind of do a little bit more leadership, if you will. So it's mostly Holly and Stephanie. But it's just, I'm so excited about it because it's basically, we're going to read books that are wonderful, classic, wholesome books, and there's going to be like a casual sort of like make along with it where you can make things that sort of fit the theme of the book, and it's just going to be so lovely. The first book that we are reading, I think it kicks off on September 6th, or maybe it's the 1st. I don't remember for sure. I will have Stephanie's latest podcast episode where she gives all of the details about it in there. I'll have it linked down below. But the first book that we are reading is An Old-Fashioned Girl by Louisa May Alcott, and it is one of my all-time favorite books. I love it so much. I have read it so many times. It is just such a good story. And so I'm beyond thrilled to be rereading it in a group of people. And it seems like a lot of people either haven't heard of it or have heard of it but haven't read it. And it's just such an underrated Louisa May Alcott book. And it's one of those books that I love so much, but nobody else talked about it. Nobody else seemed to even know it existed. So it's been very exciting that we get to read it. And then Holly of Mystery Mouse Yarn Co., she's dyeing a colorway specifically inspired by like the book, and there's this beautiful edition I think that she has, or maybe both she and Stephanie have it. It's just such a pretty edition of it. My edition of it is just a plain blue. I should have bought it in here, but I didn't, and I'm not going to go get it because I want to try and finish this up because I have a feeling the baby's going to wake up soon. So, but she's dyeing a colorway exclusively for it, and then Susan of Delightful Works made some beautiful, beautiful project bags for it. I don't know if there's any more available, but I'll have both of those shops linked down below, so you should definitely go and check them out. But yeah, I'm very excited about it. Definitely go Definitely go watch Stephanie's podcast episode to find out all the details of how you can join and participate. We'd love to have people that want to read classic, wholesome books. I've been trying to kind of brainstorm and think about like different sort of knitting projects that could be, I don't know, inspired by the book. And maybe I'll see if I can come up with a list of it and either talk about it in a podcast episode or maybe make a separate little video. I don't know. I just thought of that. But that was kind of what I was thinking about, like some of the little like shawlette things. That's kind of a similar vibe to some of like the lacy fichus. You read books and you pronounce things in your head, and anyway, the lacy like little things that women back in like the 1800s would wear around their necks and stuff. So anyway, I'm very, very excited about it. I can't wait to get started. It's really lovely. But that's it. That's all that I've got for today. It has been a long video. I know I can already tell you it's probably over an hour long. Because I have just had so much to catch you guys up on. It has been so busy around here. But that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end things here. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me and listening to me chat around about all of the lovely crafty things that I've been up to. I hope that you are all doing well and are happy and safe and are ready for fall. It's not quite fall time yet, but we're getting there. It's end of summer. I've seen a lot of people being like, oh my goodness, and like decorating for fall. And I'm like, not quite yet. Almost. But anyway, I hope that you're doing well, as I said, and thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel, and I hope to see you again very soon on the next one. Bye!